Has Marco Bezzecchi turned me into an Aprilia believer? Yeah, kind of. Does that mean I'm going to stop trolling them and take back all the nasty things I said about them? Of course not. Welcome back in, finally, to another edition of Monday Morning MotoGP, because we had racing in Austria this last weekend. I know the summer break felt really long, but we are back. Now, before we dig into everything that happened this weekend, please like, follow, share, subscribe, mash all the buttons to make sure you get all the MotoGP content you can possibly imagine. And just remember, we basically respond to every single comment. So keep the comments coming. We want to talk to you. That is why we're here. All right, we have a lot to talk about Austria. I mean, we have some outstanding rookies to talk about in all three categories. We have some Aprilia, fantastic results from Marco Bezzecchi, KTM starting to close the distance, and then we have the not so good of Yamaha running at the back of the grid and basically being nowhere. So let's just jump right in. I do want to give a special shout out to some really fast rookies in all three classes this weekend. Now, first in practice, the thing that popped out, if you are not into the social media machine, is we had a young rider by the name of Valentin Peroni have maybe the save of a lifetime. I mean, this kid was down on his elbow, arm off the bike, sliding across the tarmac, and right back up on two wheels. I mean, is there some luck at play here? Yes. But give credit where credit's due. The kid stayed on the bike. Then puts himself on the front row, pole position. As a rookie, that amazing save equals starting at the front. Fantastic. And he rode at the front for a good majority of that race, as did Max Quiles, another rookie in Moto3. Both of them falling back, did have to kind of take a back seat to Angel Piqueras, who ends up with the win in Moto3. Fantastic race, but a huge, massive effort by both of these guys in Moto3. Big stars of the future. Now, moving up a class to Moto2, we had two rookies there. We had Dani Holgado, which for me came out of nowhere. Like last time I remember watching Moto2 before the break, where was Dani Holgado? Mid-pack? End of the pack? Maybe he had a result here or there? He wasn't running second or finishing second, that is for sure. But what a weekend for him. And David Alonso, I mean, he was blistering through the pack. He was heading toward the front before he made that mistake. But make no doubt, he's figuring this Moto2 bike out. He is going to be a contender sooner rather than later, especially if no one really wants to take control of the Moto2 championship. I'm not saying he's still in it this year. Too many mistakes. It's taken him, he's a rookie. It's taken him a little while to get up to speed. Not all that long. He's going to be there for sure, I think, next year in the very, very near future. So congrats to both of those guys. But the rookie I really want to focus on is Fermin Aldeguer for Gresini Ducati in MotoGP. Now, if you don't know the story of Fermin Aldeguer, this guy has been on everyone's radar for a very long time. I remember Andre Dovizioso in 2020 basically saying, oh yeah, this kid Fermin, I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He's super quick. And we saw how fast Factory Ducati snatched this guy up after an amazing Moto2 season. They didn't even wait for the next Moto2 season to start before signing him to the next year. He hadn't rid a single lap of last season before Ducati's like, yeah, no, we want you on the bike in 2024. They wanted to make sure they had this guy in the stable. And it's really starting to show why now. The pace this guy had, the poise, the way he cut through much more experienced riders than Pecco Bagnaia, Enea Bastianini, Pedro Acosta, got on the back of Bez, made a very tough but clean pass on Bez, and then tried to hunt down Marc Marquez. And asked in the press conference after if Marc, had it all under control, had the young Spaniard, protege under control. He said, no, this kid was fast. And I want to look at his data in Sector 3 because these are left-hand turns where I'm Marc Marquez, I'm supposed to be dominating. And for some reason, Fermin was faster than me there. I need to know why. And it was a little tongue-in-cheek. It was a little fun. These guys are good friends. They have kind of mentor-mentee relationship. And Marc was quick to point out, listen, I can give him all the pointers in the world. He has to actually get on the bike and ride it. And he's been pretty fantastic at doing so. Second place today against a blisteringly fast Marco Bezzecchi at the front and Marc Marquez. No one had the pace that Fermin Aldeguer had. If he wouldn't have been mired quite so far back and been able to run with those front two guys longer, he would have been in the hunt for a victory in this race, no doubt. And it is so cool to see a young rookie. This guy's, what, 20 years old? 19, 20 years old? I think maybe he's 21 now. I doubt it. These guys already coming to the front of MotoGP and making their presence known. We saw Aldeguer do it at the beginning of the season. He had that injury. He sort of cooled off a little bit, and Fermin has really taken that baton and run straight down the field with it. So huge hats off. I think he's an immensely talented rider. The thing I loved about this ride from him, though, it just felt like there was no mistakes. It was ice cold. It was calculated. It was patient, and it was fast. My knock on him in Moto 2 was sometimes it felt like he got a little too aggressive, got a little too impatient, and then that would force himself into a mistake. Didn't see that from him today, at least. And he's still young. He will do those things. He will make those mistakes. He will get impatient when he sees the victory in hand. But really, thinking about where he was on the racetrack when he was chasing down Marc Marquez and how easy it would have been to push too hard, throw it in the gravel, and throw away that second place. When he wasn't catching Marc, he sort of knew, well, I'm not going to catch him, but I'm not going to throw away the points either. So he didn't do anything foolish, rode really smart and really fast. So congratulations to Fermin Aldeguer on the podium. I think we know who should be on the other factory Ducati. I mean, he should be on the latest spec bike, right? I mean, we talked about, I think it's in his contract for next year that he's moved from the year-old Ducati to the next factory spec, which is really the one that Fabio Di Giannantonio is on right now. That one kind of blew up today, so maybe he doesn't want to move up to the factory spec because it seems like the year-old machinery is a little more reliable. It's a little more consistent, and this new 2025 machine is iffy at best, and it only really feels like Marc Marquez can get anything out of it. I mean, if you look where Pecco and Diggia were, even when Diggia's motorcycle blew to the heavens, they weren't anywhere near where Marc was, or really even where Fermin was. So maybe he doesn't want that, but he deserves it. He should be a factory rider, and this is the next guy coming. This is the next big thing in MotoGP, and he's here. I don't even want to say next big thing. He's going to be a big thing from here on out. Will he be fast in every race? Absolutely not. He's still a rookie. He's still learning. But he's there. What do they say? There and thereabouts. He's doing a great job. So let's just talk a little bit about Aprilia, the tease at the beginning. Marco Bezzecchi has me believing a little bit in Aprilia because one of the big factors in this weekend was this stop-and-go layout of the Austria circuit suits the Ducati. The Ducati is very good in the braking, very good in the acceleration. They get the grunt in and out of the corner. When stop-and-go circuits are part of a weekend, Ducati seems to just have the edge on everyone, kind of how it was in this race. Now, Aprilia, Yamaha, these are agile motorcycles. They like fast and flowy circuits. Roll speed, they like to burn through the corners and make up that time. They don't have the straight line speed. They don't have the stop and start the Ducati does. So I expected Aprilia to be basically nowhere. And on Friday, that was exactly where they were. Bezzecchi was 18th Friday. No hope. There was no hope this man would be sitting in the front of the grid come Saturday. But here we are. On a circuit that he doesn't quite suit him, on a circuit that does not suit this bike. He's running at the front of the Grand Prix for 3/4 of it, challenging Marc Marquez the whole way. He did not hand this win over to Marc. He made Marc really, really earn it. Marc had to take a couple of runs at him, and we've seen how dominant Marc can be. And it now seems like the next one who's really there week in and week out harassing him is Marco Bezzecchi on that Aprilia. I have said all along, I don't think the Aprilia is there yet. I don't think it is the second best motorcycle on the grid, like that means something, like that can go win a title and compete. Sure, maybe they're the second best motorcycle on the grid. Second prize at a beauty contest in Monopoly wins you $10. That won't even win you that here. But we are starting to see the Aprilia be good at more than just Aprilia tracks. Yes, they're good in the UK. Yes, they're good in Assen. But now good in Brno? Good in Germany? Good in Austria? This might be trending upwards for the small Italian factory. And as a bona fide, certified Aprilia hater, I have to say, well done. Do I think it's all fixed over there? Not yet. I think they're always going to run into some reliability issues with that motorcycle. They're going to run into some tough weekends. They're not going to have every weekend be rosy. Maybe they will. I doubt it. But boy, does it seem like they are really making a step. And is that the step that Jorge Martin saw when he came back to Aprilia and got back on the motorcycle and said, oh, maybe I don't want to leave. maybe you guys are doing real business over here, because that bike I rode in testing was kind of nowhere. Now, Bez is on the podium. Martin wants some of that podium juice, and I can't blame him. I think they're doing a fantastic job over there. Again, Aprilia hater here, gonna just eat my hat and say, hats off, really nice job. Eat my hat, hats off. That's two hat analogies really close together. I apologize for that. But I think they're doing a terrific job, and I was shocked this weekend. I mean, they blew my fantasy team completely wide open. We'll talk about that tomorrow on I Told You So Tuesday. But I was not expecting Bezzecchi to be on pole, to be fighting for sprint wins and podiums, and to be fighting for Grand Prix wins. I didn't think he had the distance in him, and when I saw his pace and the way he was able to kind of keep Marc behind him and run really fast, those two streaked away from everyone else, even the other Ducatis. It was only Fermin Aldeguer's late race pace that brought him back in. At the beginning of the race, this was all Marco Bezzecchi. So maybe they have it figured out there. Now on the other side, KTM with the other manufacturer, this is KTM's home race. And what I had said pre-race or pre-summer break was KTM has to have a good weekend in Austria, because if they don't have a good weekend at their home track, what are we even doing here? We saw them be fast in Brno. We saw a happy Pedro Acosta, happier, openly admitting, hey, I haven't been that easy to deal with, but we're going in the right direction. They come back from summer break. They've got some updates to the aero. They've got some updates to the exhaust. He seems even happier. Gets on a podium in the sprint, and then in the main race, finishes what? Finishes fourth off the podium. But if you paid attention to him in the garage afterward, he was not upset. He wasn't pounding his fist against the air going, I can't believe we didn't get a podium. He was like, wow, the bike is handling so much better. Such a difference. Fourth place, okay, I'm off the podium, whatever. But I can live with this. This is a pace I can live with. If fourth is a quote-unquote bad day, mediocre day, and there's better days ahead, Pedro Acosta, they're going to keep him very, very happy over there. So I think it is too early to say for KTM or Aprilia that they've turned some magic corner and they're going to start closing down Ducati. Like Ducati's days of domination are numbered. But we are seeing Ducati hit a little bit of a wall in the development era, and we're seeing these other manufacturers start to close the gap. At least with Aprilia and KTM. Honda, Joan Mir has a decent finish. I think he finished sixth today. So he has a decent finish. Finally, he doesn't get wiped out by someone else. Solid points for Honda. But we have to talk about Yamaha. I don't want to. I'm a Yamaha stan. Yamaha with the Rossies on the wall. My first motorcycle was a Yamaha. My leather jacket in the closet is a Yamaha. Big Yamaha fan, but boy, was that hard to watch this weekend. Dead last, all four bikes, back of the grid. Fabio Quartararo, one single point in the Grand Prix. 15th is all he could manage. It's all the further he could go forward. Only going forward in front of other Yamahas and DNFs. So what's the solution over there? What's wrong? Of course, every single person on earth is screaming to the heavens, just go to the V4 already, the mighty V4, we need a V4. Now, before you become one of those people that just repeats things you hear in the ether, just repeats things heard on the commentary, I just need you to pause for 1 second. Will Yamaha ultimately go to the V4? Of course. Will they go to it next year? We don't know. Will it be not until the regulations change in 27? Perhaps. I think that might be a little more realistic, but we don't know for sure. But before you just go screaming into the heavens with everyone else, oh, they just got to go to the V4, you have to keep in mind this one thing. Honda also runs a V4. They are nowhere near Ducati. KTM and Aprilia run V4s. It is not a magic bullet to beat Ducati and be competitive for a championship. The V4, say it with me, Yamaha switching to a V4 does not mean they will be magically running back at the front. There's a lot more wrong with this motorcycle than just the engine. Again, we talk about rear grip all the time. We talk about acceleration, we talk about top speed, we talk about horsepower, all these things. Yes, the engine is a major component of a motorcycle. It's not the only component. And what I was reminded of today a little bit when Marc Marquez said in the press conference, he was kind of asked about the handling of the Ducati. He said, listen, pre-2016, When all the manufacturers kind of used their own proprietary ECU, their own electronics they were able to develop in-house, their closed circuit branded stuff, the one Honda had was the best one he's ever ridden, including the stuff he's riding today. Let me say that again. The stuff he was riding with when he first got to Honda, that electronics package is better than what he's riding with Ducati today. Then they had to open everything up. They didn't want this to be an electronics battle. They wanted that kind of playing field to be leveled and everything to be kind of more mechanical. We see these ride height devices, the aerodynamics, the engine size, the things like that. So now it's kind of all open, one system. They can tweak within the system, but they're not allowed to use their own hardware, software, firmware, that type of thing. I'm not a computer guy. This is just my understanding of it. If you know better than me, make sure you chime in. But that's where Ducati started developing the advantage over the manufacturers like Honda and Yamaha, who were electronics companies. Let's just be honest. Honda and Yamaha know how to make electronic components. So when they're developing this in-house software, it was better than everyone else's. So now that they're kind of using the same ECU, they're all playing by the same set of rules, and they can only tweak the settings within that system across all manufacturers. Again, this was meant to make development a little cheaper, not so that companies wouldn't have to spend tons of money in research and development to develop their own proprietary software systems. That sounds really fancy. It's just building your own stuff is expensive. Yamaha and Honda had the edge in that particular game. They don't have that edge anymore. So a big part of what Honda needs is dialed in electronics, setup, aero, exhaust, all these things that we don't always talk about because we like to say the big fancy things. Well, V4, that's big and sexy. Oh, brand new engine. And in the back of our mind, we're all thinking, man, are we going to get an R1 with a V4 in it at some point? Like, is that going to come to the street? That'd be kind of cool. Like, selfishly, we're all thinking that in the back of our minds. So I get why it's easy. And Jack Appleyard did it post race, and I was a little upset with him saying, oh, it's V4, it's got V4 or nothing. Oh, they've gone as far as they can with the inline 4. No, they haven't. There's always more they can do. The Yamaha's faster now than it was before, with the exception of this terrible, terrible, terrible race. We've seen the Yamaha break track records this season, take pole positions, be faster than a Ducati. It's not that they just can't compete. It's that they're not making steps soon enough, fast enough, good enough. So will they go to the V4? Of course they will at some point. But it's not the magic bullet, folks. Nothing is. If you've learned anything from watching this channel, you have to understand there is no magic bullet in MotoGP. Microseconds and millimeters. It's a game of microseconds and millimeters. Incremental steps, one step at a time. Now Yamaha's making those steps, and maybe the V4 is where they need to go. But what would be the point of them dragging out a V4 next season that's slower than the bike they're currently putting on the grid? What's the point of that? So all of you will be calling, why don't they just go to the V4, stupid Yamaha? Well, if that thing isn't running competitive lap times, what is the frickin' point? They might as well just jump on a Moto2 bike and ride around at the back. Just something to keep in mind as you start hearing all these talking points, because this is going to be, every time Yamaha stumbles, this is going to be the talking point. They got to move to this V4. When are they testing the V4? When is Fabio Quartararo going to test the V4? When do they bring it to the track? This is going to be a broken record for the rest of the season until they come out and say, hey, here's the engine we're running next year. And then next year, we're going to hear nothing but, well, the new regulations. Maybe they're going to the V4, the 150 cc's, the fuel, the capacity, blah, blah, blah. Change in tires, change in tire characteristics, all that jazz. So far, it's contained to this season with, well, V4 or not to V4 and when they will do it. So just don't get too caught up, because there's a lot more to a motorcycle than just one piece, even if it is a big frickin' piece. All right, that does us for this edition of Monday Morning MotoGP. Make sure you join us tomorrow for I Told You So Tuesday, where I go through my pre-race predictions for the weekend as it regards to my fantasy team. And then look out for more MotoGP stuff on the way. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon.